When the little door swings, the place holds its breath. No high noon western here. There are puddles on the floor, an alcoholic haze, sticky boards, and eyes trying to erase stories. This corner is refuge and business, not a stage for bravado. Beyond the sign, buzzing, damp skin, makeshift rules, and debts that drag on. Today you're crossing with me. Want to see? Open it again and come on in. Number 1. To picture a saloon, forget the shine of the movies. In camps and stops, it was the first to show up. It came up crooked, out of whatever was around. Stretched canvas, rushed mud walls, reused planks. If money came in, the canvas turned into wood, and the false front appeared. A tall wall promising grandeur where structure was lacking. It wasn't vanity, it was strategy. Showing permanence drew customers and kept the cash flowing. Few places ever got the polish of deadwood or tombstone. Anyone pushing through the door felt the heavy air, flat beer, whiskey that burned, sweat and tobacco smoke. The dirt street blew dust in with every swing of the doors and sometimes carried the smell of animals. Music showed up when someone paid for it, disappeared with the next train. The background noise was talk, cut by dry coughs and short laughs. The sight confirmed the rest. Sawdust on the floor soaked up spills and spit. It stayed damp. The bar stuck to your palm, polished by hands and sugar. Kerosene lamps fought with the shadows and left the place smoky. Even the swinging doors, remembered for dramatic entrances, had a simple job: to refresh the air, pushing out some of the smell and dust. In the end, the saloon didn't sell luxury or romance. It delivered something else, a reference point built from scraps, able to give shape to an unstable territory. For newcomers with no address, it left a message. Stay tonight, tomorrow we'll see if the town still stands. And that was enough to start a promise of place. Number 2. A fertile ground for disease. In the Western saloon, danger rarely came in shouting. It slipped in through habit. Taking a bath was like a military operation. Hauling water from the well, lighting the stove, waiting for it to boil, dragging the tub to the middle of the room. In many homes, there was just one bathtub, shared in turns, father, mother, and children. By the time it reached the youngest, the water was already a warm, murky broth. The mouth followed a similar path. With no toothbrush around, people would scrape between their teeth with a blade. If it got inflamed, relief came in the barber's chair or the blacksmith's forge, with pliers and a shot of whiskey. The towns didn't help much. With no sewage system, trash ended up in the street and came back with rain and wind, turning into mud or dust. Part of that mix entered the saloon stuck to boots, coats, and wagon wheels. Inside, crowded and stuffy rooms hosted lice and flies. The math was simple. Scarce hygiene, almost no sanitation, and pests everywhere. That's how disease spread faster. Cholera traveled in shared cups, rinsed in a rush. Tuberculosis thrived in smoky rooms among coughs that lasted all night. Smallpox jumped from skin to skin like fire in dry grass. At the end of the day, every simple act, a toast, a handshake, a hurried sip, could spark a fever. People feared fights at the bar and the revolver at the hip, but the daily threat was the invisible. For the common customer, the biggest risk wasn't a stray bullet. It was what passed from hand to hand, mouth to mouth, fed by carelessness, crowding, and dust. It was routine, not duels, that dug the graves and gave disease its breath. Number 3. In the Old West, the danger of the saloon wasn't on the floor, but inside the bottle. Real bourbon rarely showed up. What crossed the bar earned straight-up nicknames: coffin varnish, tarantula juice, rat poison. And there was a reason. To keep the flow going without breaking the bank, many made whiskey at home. It started with grain alcohol bought by the bucket, got its color from burnt sugar, and a kick from chewing tobacco. Turpentine, creosote, and whatever else was handy also went in. The result was rough, strong enough to knock down a cowboy in minutes and leave nausea, fever, and a burning hangover the next day. None of this was the exception. In frontier towns and mining camps, the lack of oversight fueled an opportunistic market. Labels meant little. Every shot was a gamble. Not even beer escaped. Without refrigeration, it was served warm, and those asking for something stronger often got a barrel spiked with drugs. In that world of hurry, bravado, and faith in liquid courage, raising a glass meant bargaining with risk. Many toasted believing they were defying fate, not noticing the threat sitting in the amber glow before them. Calling the drink rat poison didn't sound like exaggeration. It was the diagnosis of a time when the saloon lit up the night and at the same time charged a heavy price from the bodies of those who drank. There, every sip bought a few minutes of bravery and sold hours of misery, and the bill, unfailingly, came due in the body. Number 4. Addiction and violence never shined like they do in the movies. The saloon gained a reputation as a den, and at times it lived up to it. But daily life had a different rhythm. When tempers flared, the usual was a quick clash between 2 or 3 men, usually over cards, unpaid debt, or a direct insult. Over time, many towns started requiring weapons to be left at the door. The rule didn't end the danger, it just changed the outcome. Fists spoke louder than triggers, and the night went on. Inside, gambling set the hours. Crowded tables, worn decks, and chips sliding across the felt kept the hall alive. Some dealers treated their reputation like currency. It was what built trust and brought customers back. There were also masters of cheating, subtle in their moves and quick to spot a tired newcomer, ready to drain the last cent with marked cards and invisible cuts. Between hands, music, laughter, and talk kept folks at the table, hoping luck would turn. The place didn't run on its own. The saloon girls were professionals of sociability. They sang, danced, toasted, collected stories, and offered an ear. For many, it was a path to some autonomy in a harsh frontier. Prostitution ran on its own track, with its own codes, little protection, and constant risk, a parallel business off the main stage. Behind the swinging doors, there was no epic, just routine. There was calculation, negotiation, and choices made by people looking for distraction in a land where death was always near. That was the West as it was lived. Little glamour, plenty of pragmatism. The saloon wasn't a myth. It was a business that learned every night, closed the books, covered losses, paid the band, and opened again the next day. It carried on like that, sustained by deals and reputations, not by gunfire and duels. Number 5. Not everyone walked through those swinging doors. Beneath the dust and the illusion of duels, the saloon worked as a social gear guided by unspoken codes. They set who could enter and what role to play. At the bar, cowboys, prospectors, sheriffs, and outlaws bumped into each other and struck alliances in an instant. Today's authority could be tomorrow's trouble, but the boundaries stayed clear. Women considered respectable stayed outside. Native peoples and Chinese immigrants were turned away at the door. Black men present in the West hit the limit imposed by whites and built their own bars. And there was a curious ban: soldiers. The uniform was irritating. Owners preferred to avoid clashes with official authority. Those who passed the first filter faced another: behavior. The rule of discretion applied. You didn't ask about someone's origin or reason. Staring in silence could spark disaster. There was also the ritual of the round. If someone bought a drink, immediate acceptance was expected. Refusing was an insult and a spark for a fight. Daily life was far from Hollywood's shine. The heavy smell of sweat and smoke replaced any perfume. Many saloons served questionable drinks, sometimes spiked with poison. Hygiene was poor, disease ran loose. To keep the night going, the selected clientele imposed strict rules, trying to contain the chaos that hovered outside. Looking at the real saloon helps us read the West without legend. It wasn't a stage for cardboard heroes, but a stop for ordinary people, crossing paths while chasing rest, news, quick cash, or forgetfulness. What held that scene together wasn't glamour, but the mix of exclusions and rituals that structured social life. In it, you see a society trying to impose order through custom, while the frontier exacted a high price from everyone. And for you, what stands out? The adulterated whiskey, the disease lurking, or the rigid etiquette that mattered more than a revolver? Share in the comments. Thanks for following along.